Hi, I'm Gary White with Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television. I'm here with Kenny Fogle, and today I have the pleasure of getting to talk to Kenny. Usually he's the one asking the questions, so I get to ask him some questions today, because recently you retired from the United Way of the Tri-County United Way of the area. It used to be the Nelson County United Way, right? But the last couple of years been Tri-County United Way, and you were with them for over 30 years.
Well, a little over 30 years, yeah. It's a interesting story how we got started years ago. I was working for state government. I was working in Frankfurt at the time, and when you work for state government, it's almost mandatory that you give to United Way. It's a big push that they give, the state government bosses do, and for several years I was donating to United Way, and they'd come around and hand you a little piece of paper and say, what United Way do you want to give to? Well, I was from Nelson County, so I said, well, the smartest thing to do is give it to my hometown. So I checked off Nelson County. For 2 or 3 years I was given to Nelson County United Way, until all of a sudden I realized that reading the newspapers, watching television, just different things, radio, I never heard anybody mention United Way of Nelson County. I had no idea where the money was even going. So we got to do a little research and found out that Mike Moore, used to be city administrator in Bardstown many years ago, had chartered the United Way, got a bank account set up, got the 501c3 status, and then he changed jobs and moved to, I think, Atlanta, Georgia or somewhere, so it just sat there. So there really was no United Way of Nelson County, so got to asking around and found out Bernie Keene, used to be state representative, was involved, and he led me to Tom Isaac, at that time was running the radio station, and Tom said, yeah, so he's got all the paperwork, had it in a file cabinet, so, but just hadn't had time to do anything with it. So the three of us got together, Tom Isaac, myself, Bernie Keene, and went down to Danville and talked to some people down at Danville, Mercer County, and found out how they ran their United Way, come back and modeled ours, and that was back in 1986, and the rest is history.
And so the money in the bank was all the ones that you could...
Yeah, well, we had about, well, not just me, but other people, we had about $10,000 or $12,000 in the bank to get started, so that was really a good problem to have, because we didn't know where the bank was at first. It took us a while to figure out where that was, but Mike had done all the hard work, because getting a 501c3 is difficult.
Yeah.
So he had went through and got all the hard work done, established everything, and had some other people involved, but he just moved out of town, and it just dwindled, and we just rekindled it a little bit.
Absolutely. So that was the Nelson County United Way.
United Way of Nelson County at that time. We just concentrated right here in the Bardstown, Nelson County area, and we started out that first year, raised maybe 20, 30,000. The next year, 40, 50,000, and every year just a little bit more, until the final year when we raised around $200,000 this past year that I just retired from.
Now, you were executive director when you retired.
I was.
How long did you have that position?
Well, I had that just a little over 5 years. What happened is Linda Wells was I've been the president or the treasurer or something since day one. I mean, at some point I had some officer role, and Linda Wells was there, and Linda decided to retire, and we had just started talking about expanding into Tri-County Kentucky United Way, going into Marion and Washington County. So the board said, well, instead of hiring somebody right now, would I be interested in taking it over just for a year or so until we made the transition? Well, that turned into 5.5 years, and so after the transition worked out, we hired a former Marion County Judge Executive, John G. Mattingly, which was a tremendous find. He had to be in Lebanon one day, and when he was still judge, and he was talking about he was going to retire, and I said, well, what do you want to do after you retire? And he said, really don't know, but I want to stay involved with the community. And I said, well, I've got just the job. And so went back and talked to the board, and we snapped him up right away, and he's been a tremendous asset for us for this Tri-County.
Absolutely. Now, how long has it been the Tri-County then?
Tri-County it'd be the 4th year now. We're going into 4 years, because we tried it 1 year, and then we just completed 3 years of it, but it's growing. It takes a while. I always say it takes 3 to 5 years for it to take off, and it's just starting to grow. We're getting into factories, and that's how we make 90% of our money, is going into factories and payroll deduction. People donating $2, $4, $6 a month or week out of their paycheck, and sometimes the companies match it, and sometimes there's other ways the companies might give a grant, but that's why we make our money. And there's about 5 or 6 companies in Lebanon and starting in Springfield now that are just now warming up to the idea of what that means, how you support the community, which is very little money.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of that, the United Way is an organization that raises money to then distribute money.
That's a primary purpose. We do some other things as far as bring people together on particular issues, such as in Nelson County, we brought all the homeless shelter people and people interested in, brought it together, and Room in the Inn was born from that. Didn't cost us a penny, but it worked out well. But primarily, that's what we do. We're fundraisers. We raise money, $200,000, $250,000, somewhere in that neighborhood is what we hope to raise this year. And at the end of the year, we have all the agency, any agency that serves the 3 counties can file for, if they've got a 501c3 status, can file and help Human and Health Services. And then there's an allocations committee that comes together in January, February. They do a lot of research into all these different agencies, what they need, what's best for the community, turn it over to the board of directors, and the board of directors makes a final decision of how to divide the money up.
Use the money's way. So over this 30 or odd years that you've been involved, what have you seen and kind of how have you seen the United Way of Nelson County, now Tri-County United Way, which obviously is a big change, but how have you seen it evolve?
Well, it's grown so tremendously, primarily because when we first started out, it was mainly looking at places like St. Vincent de Paul, places like that, as far as food distribution. We really didn't have a homeless shelter at the time. Homelessness wasn't even really on our radar. It was just more of helping out with Red Cross. That was huge at the time. Emergency issues, food issues. We got into maybe a few little things as far as community action, as far as helping people with rent and utilities. But it's grown so tremendously now. Domestic violence has become a much bigger issue than we ever thought before. Family resource centers, the backpack program that they have at the schools is something that's blossomed, and many other, the senior citizen centers program in each of the counties. We've got into helping out with some helping people with the cancer, getting back and forth so it's grown probably too much, and to some degree we're trying to scale back, as maybe we think maybe we spread ourselves way too thin there for a while. And we're wondering if our community impact hasn't been a little bit diminished by the fact that we are funding so many agencies. And we looked in the last several years to maybe just funding 3 or 4 agencies and just really concentrating on one. Just like I said, the homeless issue, which is not solved, but it's tremendously better than it was just a few years ago. So if you look into 1 or 2 or 3 particular issues and really hammer in on them, we think we really have a huge impact on the communities we serve.
Absolutely. And would you say that's one of the highlights for you, having been a part of this?
Well, it's been a learning, it's a highlight, but it's also a learning curve. I mean, I learned from day one. The day I got there, I really didn't know what I was doing. I knew I was raising money. I knew we was going to put it back in the community. I knew it was going to help because I knew people needed money, and I knew agencies that charitable agencies are notoriously broke. So I figured, well, anything we put in, if we put $1 back in the community, it's better than what it was. So you learn. I mean, I didn't know very much. When I first got involved in this 30 years ago, I didn't know very much about hunger and homelessness. I knew they were there, but I didn't know to what extent and what depth and how to even tackle the problem. So a lot of people that knew this a whole lot better than me taught me as I went along. I learned how to raise money, and I learned how to go out and make the spiel and the speeches and tell people what the problems were. But a lot of times I was telling them what the problems were a week or 2 after I learned what the problems were. And we've hammered out solutions. Great people on our board of directors, great people that work in many of the agencies, such as Lynn Roby up at the Central Kentucky Community Action Center, our council. I mean, she's been a tremendous asset, people such as her, and a lot of other people just over the years. I just can't begin, don't want to start naming them because I know I'm going to leave somebody out.
Now, another thing that recently the United Way got involved was the trifecta as well. And that's been, is it the 3rd year?
Third year of it, and it was sort of just, it was a natural fit really, because a lot of the questions people have about United Way or any charity, and this is the question you should ask, is what is the administrative cost? Because there are some charities out there with administrative costs. When I say administrative costs, I'm talking about salaries, paying your utility bills, your rent, advertising, printing brochures, everything except what it's meant to go far as helping people. So there's some charities with 70-80% administrative costs. A lot of them you get over the telemarketers. That's the biggest problem, is because the other money goes to paying these telemarketers rather than go to charity. So we decided we wanted to find a mechanism to pay administrative costs that didn't involve the donations people were giving. So it was a perfect fit. We were already running the Spirit 5K during the Bourbon Festival here in Bardstown, and it was making a little bit of money for us. Well, we got to looking around. The very next weekend is Ham Days in Lebanon, the Farmers National Bank Pokey Pig 5K. So we approached Melissa up at the bank and talked to her. All for it. That was great. So then we called over at the Chamber of Commerce in Springfield because they had the sorghum shuffle coming up the very next weekend during the sorghum festival. That worked out great. So between the Chamber of Commerce, Farmers National Bank in Lebanon, and us, United Way, Tri-County United Way, it's just a perfect fit. So what we've done is it's like the Triple Crown in horse racing. If you run in all 3 races, you accumulate points for what positions you came in. At the end, we crown a winner, and it's really turned out well. We had a lot of participants first 3 years, and I think it's going to grow because people are talking about it all over the country.
That's great.
The Dooley Mattingly's done a fantastic job. He's sort of ramrodded this. He's a runner, I'm not. Because the first year we came out, I said, well, we got to come up with this super prize, get a big trophy. And he said, no, get them T-shirts. And I looked at him and said, who wants T-shirts? He said, runners want T-shirts. They like these great dry fit T-shirts. So Dooley knew what he's talking about, and it's went over great.
Absolutely. And it's gone over pretty well. It keeps growing every year.
It does, and it pays a good portion of the administrative cost. And again, we can honestly tell people that we spend less than 10% of their donations on administrative cost, and hopefully over the years it'll diminish even more, because that's a huge selling point. Because when I give money to a charity, I want it to go to where it's needed for. I don't want it to go for stamps and envelopes and buy supplies. I want it to go to actually help people, and United Way does that.
So after 30 years, Kenny Fogle here is going to be retired, or has retired
right.
from the United Way, working here in Nelson County in the Tri-County area. So what's ahead now,
Well,
Kenny?
for the United Way, we made an upgrade. I mean, we made a tremendous upgrade as we hired Laura Sedlacek, and Laura is by far and away a better fundraiser than me. She's a better administrator than me. She's better looking than me. She does everything better than me. So I think we made a tremendous 2.0, 3.0 upgrade, and Laura's going to do a fantastic job. She's the new executive director for the Tri-County Kentucky United Way. John G. Mattingly's still there, 2-person staff, but Laura's going to do a fantastic job, and I'm going to move on. I've got some plans I'm going to do, which I'll probably be announcing here in the next few weeks as I'm thinking about getting back. Staying in public service. I love public service. I really do. I love working with people. I love the part where you get out and somebody comes to you with their problems, and you find a way to. It always is such a tremendous good feeling to me is when somebody comes to me with a problem and I can find a way to help. And there's always a way to help. I just feel like that. I feel like there's just always a way to help, and I want to stay involved in the community and in public service. So that's what my plans are.
Fantastic. And again, I'm talking with Kenny Fogle, who you get to see here on Channel 6. Hopefully be here with us on Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television, too.
Well, yeah, that's your call. You're the boss.
And congratulations on your retirement. And we look forward to everything that you're going to be doing in the future.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. This has been Gary White with Kenny Fogle here on Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television.